Severity is weirdly good. It's a series on Apple TV, and I watched a few first episodes. So, what is it about? It's about a concept. The concept of what if you would be able to completely separate the two parts of our brain that don't really exist, but what if you separated work and private life completely? So therefore, there is this procedure that is called a word I cannot remember, and there is also this main character. This main character is the one we see the whole episode through. Not the whole episode, but the whole series through. And so the main character is a very blunt character, you could say. He doesn't have a lot. You can guess what he is about. He is probably in his private life very quiet. And so therefore, we enter. And we enter in a kind of way that is similar to Dave and in 2001 Spaceship. So there is a woman in a room, and then we have a very old school style speaker. And the vintage vibe is also kind of what gives this series maybe its vibe, because it's weird. We don't really know if it is the actual present or if it's kind of in the past. We don't really know about that, but it seems to be a little bit in the past, at least when it comes to the workplace. And since we do not know, I think it is in the past, because there are no smartphones or things like these out of the office. So what happens in the office? Nobody knows. And this is one of the big ideas already that we won't find out soon. It's the same concept of not showing the shark in the Great White Shark, or not the Great White Shark, but it's actually called Jaws. So not showing the monster, which is something probably the Predators movies, for example, do really badly. And the first one doesn't. The first one doesn't show the monster. If you see something, then it becomes just less, let's say, seemingly less dangerous. The same is true for the dark. Because we cannot see in the dark, it could be anything in the dark, and also something dangerous. Of course, this doesn't really influence the possibility or the likelihood of something dangerous being there. But if we see everything, then we can kind of exclude the likelihood of something dangerous being there. So now when it comes to this principle applied to severity, then we don't really find out what happens in the office. It's kind of the office, just without the office and without the humor. So it's very severe. That's probably also the reason why it is called severity. So how does it work? How does the whole thing work? Basically, you drive in. So the main protagonist drives in, and then he enters an elevator. And in this elevator, there is some process happening, maybe radiation or some kind of radiation, where he basically changes. And there is also a change in the picture, so we see kind of a warp effect. And then he enters the office. And basically he does almost nothing all day. But back to the entrance scene, where we see the woman on the table with the speaker. It's a kind of very formal way. So basically the speaker speaks, and then it's like, oh, there's no additional information about this. And then the woman kind of gets emotional and wants out, and that's kind of the failing. Afterwards, we find out that it's not the failing, but the woman never really... So the woman is basically the new one in the office. And the office consists out of 4 people. One of these is our main protagonist. And later we find out that it was basically his first job as the instructor, this woman. And we also don't really know why this woman is there, because there was somebody else there who is now gone. And that's already the mystery. And what we also find out in the series is that something is obviously wrong about this whole thing. There is kind of so someone who had the procedure, I think it is only called the procedure, and who had the procedure and worked there, and they were colleagues, and now he's basically kind of lost, because the procedure in the outside world, so basically being away from whatever stabilizes the private life, is not so stable. So therefore he visits the main protagonist, and they kind of talk a little bit. And also we find out that so basically the boss of the protagonist is also his neighbor, which is weird, and which again leaves the question, does everybody's boss be also their neighbor and therefore control them all the time, which is a ratio that cannot be established throughout long periods of time and also doesn't really make sense. But nevertheless, there is this mystery, and this is what really intrigued me in this series. It just has a vibe. There is not much said. We are just shown random things, like what do they do in the office? Actually, they sort numbers into bins, and when they sort them whenever they feel right, and that's basically what they do. The person that contacts the protagonist, who worked with him before but now doesn't work for the company anymore, is also kind of hinting towards maybe murder. But of course, this will probably not, so I don't think the whole series will end in a murder mystery or kind of something like Saw or something like this. Probably not, because that's not the vibe of the series. The vibe of the series is not giving away the thing that makes it so mysterious, the thing that makes it so dangerous. So in total, I would give it maybe 7 out of 10 stars. I watched a few first episodes and then I killed my Apple TV subscription because I decided it is not so much worth my time anymore to watch that much stuff. So therefore, you have to look for yourself how the whole thing actually plays out.